Have you ever asked yourself what's the difference between a real alpha male and a fake alpha male? Matt here, a men's dating coach, and I help men reclaim their masculinity to attract their dream relationship. Video, I'm going to be talking to you about the differences between a real alpha male and a fake alpha male and why it is important. So to lay a foundation, you're always going to get a congruence test. Do you know what a congruence test is? Maybe you've heard of it before. If you haven't, what it is essentially a test that a woman gives us to see if we say who we really are. So this is really important when you're trying to become an alpha, or if you're faking being an alpha, because it's really apparent to women that you're not really who you say you are. And so when they're testing us, they're trying to say, and this is where that saying comes from, just be yourself. Because really what she wants to do is see how congruent to who you say you are and your behaviors. So if you ever see a fake alpha male, they're always trying to prove themselves. They're always trying to swag almost too much. They're always compensating. This is a big point. Fake alpha males are always compensating because the reason they need to compensate is because they're not real. They're not real in who they say they are. They're not real inside themselves. So they're always trying to make up. So you'll see their fashion, they're trying too hard. They're usually, ironically, some of the loudest in the room. And I can remember back in the day, I would always try to be the loudest. I would always try to get the most attention. But you know what was interesting? It never worked. I did get attention, but not the kind of attention I wanted from women. And that's where I actually started changing my style, started changing my approach. And instead of trying to be loud and compensate for who I was, because I actually wasn't a real alpha, I was fake inside myself. And I didn't have the congruence of who I actually said I was. So then women would come and test me, and I'd have no ability to actually be congruent to who I said I was. The irony sometimes with this fake alpha is they actually can be quote unquote the bully. They can be the one that needs to show their dominance. You ever see that with men sometimes? It's when men feel inadequate about themselves, they need to actually portray their dominance on other men. And it's really it comes down to like that small guy syndrome, right? You've seen a guy getting a big, massive truck. He's this short guy and he's trying to compensate for something that he isn't. And so men will often show dominance, and it could be perceived as he's an alpha because he has dominance over others. But in actuality, he's trying to compensate for something he's not. So let's look at a real alpha. What are some traits of a real alpha? He's calm. He's grounded. He definitely does not need to prove himself. And he's definitely not overcompensating. And he definitely doesn't care what people think of him. And he's going to do what he wants when he wants. Not in a way to disrespect people, but not in a way where he's pandering and people-pleasing to others. So let's look at this alpha male in the room. Generally speaking, he's a bit more quiet, he's a bit more reserved, and he's really content inside of himself. And he's definitely not overcompensating. So you often see this with young rappers always buying all these chains and wearing all this jewelry. You even see it, like look back at Jay-Z when he first started rapping. He'd wear all the big chains. But you know what's funny? When he's now where he's at, you see him on that interview with David Letterman, he has like basically a very small chain. He's all suited up. He's got he doesn't even have, I don't even think he's wearing a watch in that interview because he doesn't need to compensate because he already owns the Brooklyn Stadium or whatever the stadium's called in New York. And he doesn't need to compensate for who he is because he's actually who he says he is. So when you get centered inside yourself as a real alpha, you don't actually need to express it. You don't need to show anyone, and you're actually centered inside yourself. Let's look at it from someone that needs to prove that they're rich. If you ever see like real wealth, you ever been around someone really wealthy, and you ever be around someone that just gets rich really quickly, what do? A lot of these guys, they need to compensate and prove that they're rich, prove to people that they have money. So they buy all these external things. But the challenge with that, with these fake alphas, is that their confidence and who they are is related and dependable on these external factors. So if we were to take that quote unquote rich kid or rich guy and take him away from his Lamborghini, take him away from his chains, take him away from his new clothes, and put him just in a certain area with like no clothes, like no nice clothes, no nice stuff. The real test you want to see if you're a fake or real alpha, how would you be? Can you be still just as confident? Can you be just as confident if you have a nice car or if you don't have a nice car? So these alphas don't need to prove themselves. They're just who they are, regardless of the situation, regardless of what they're wearing, regardless of who they're around, and regardless of the things that they own. So I would encourage you to ask yourself, is there areas of your life that you're compensating right now? Do you need to wear that nice watch to go approach that hot chick? Do you need to have a nice business or making a lot of money to feel good about yourself? And if you are, that's okay, but this is how we start to become congruent inside ourselves if we build up this self-awareness. If you're ready to become that alpha you know you have inside yourself, click the link below. Let's jump on a call together and let's see if we're a good fit to really getting you to reclaiming your masculinity and attracting that dream relationship you know you deserve.